So where did black folk go wrong after the civil rights movement? Coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logical Reason. And as always, I'm going to say thank y'all for joining me today. So we know that, historically speaking, the civil rights movement took place back in the 60s, with the Black Power movement led by Dr. King. Unfortunately, we know Dr. King was assassinated. And I would have to say that the civil rights movement was the right movement at the right time. I mean, we all know of America's history, past treatment of black people. Nobody's denying that. We know that black people were treated like second-class citizens. We know that Jim Crow existed, segregation existed. And by the way, I always keep saying this was done by the left, by the Democrats, but black people keep voting for them. They keep crying about, the Dixiecrats of the past that don't exist anymore, but the Dixiecrats were Democrats, and black folks still keep voting for Democrats. But anyway, as a result of the civil rights era movement, which I would have to say was a very successful movement, we got the civil rights legislation. Black folks are no longer treated as second-class citizens in America, and if any black person say that's the case, they're full of crap. No black person is treated as a second-class citizen today. Any black person in America could go out here and achieve whatever it is that they want, and I have still yet to find one black person that can say how racism and white supremacy is holding them back from what. So then where did we go wrong after the civil rights era movement? Well, after the civil rights era movement, after the civil rights legislation was passed, we as black people, we should have transitioned to the economic era. An era in which we say, okay, we have the opportunity now, so let's take advantage of it. Unfortunately, we didn't. We're still stuck in the civil rights era, and in some cases, I would have to say we've regressed past that. I mean, we're still sitting here crying about being victims, crying about oppressions that don't exist anymore. You know what I'm saying? We're still sitting here crying about voter ID is suppressing the black vote. I mean, like, what black person can't find a damn DMV and go get an ID? It's ridiculous. And it's all being led by these damn race hustlers. This is the number one threat of a race hustler. The biggest problem of the race hustlers is they keep black folks as victims. And as long as we keep focusing on victimhood, then we won't be focused on victorhood. Again, we need to get out of the civil rights era movement. The civil rights era is dead. It's gone. It's past. We have the civil rights legislation. It's time to move on, black people, and stop with the victimhood if we want to prosper in America like everybody else does, like black people from other countries who come here does. It has nothing to do with they bring all of this money, quote unquote. No, they bring an attitude of progressive attitude, and they progress. So it's time for us to do the same, okay, black folks? So we need to leave the civil rights era behind, okay? And we need to get to this economic era. If we do so, there'll be nothing to cry about in this country. But we continue to be stuck in that civil rights era, continue to be victims. And the worst part about it, as I've always said, is the black people in America who are doing very well for themselves financially and still crying about being victims. Many of them perpetuating the victimhood. So, again, this is where we went wrong after the civil rights era. We never moved to the economic era, and it's time to do so, black folks. Anyway, everybody will disagree, but of course nobody was going to make a sound, logical argument against what I'm saying now. So they'll just be emotional. But anyway, this is my 2 cents on this, y'all. We need to get into that. We need to leave the civil rights era behind once and for all, black people. And as always, y'all, until next time.